Hi Rohan, welcome. Thanks for coming along to your interview with Xero today. I'm going to dive straight in with the first question. So the first question is, what would you say your strengths are?
Yeah, my strengths. Well, I had a background in hospitality, and I was really in that field. Although I enjoyed it, I was stagnating a bit. I wasn't learning as much as I was at the start, and I really was looking for another challenge. And that's why I got into tech, and I was really attracted to tech. There's so much to learn there that I found that really exciting and really, I suppose I could see the challenge in that, and that was what was drawing me to it. Since coming to Dev Academy and taking this journey, it's been really awesome to be able to. Well, I actually didn't know how much teamwork there was involved in tech, but I've loved that aspect of it. That was one thing I loved about working in kitchens and being in hospitality, and I think seeing that in tech is pretty cool. So I think for me, I love the learning, and I'm really attracted to that challenge, and I love working with other people and learning with other people, and the fact that we're building something, and in software you get to see that result as you do in chefing and in the kitchens and so on. I think I'm really spurred on by that. So I think one of the biggest strengths is I actually enjoy that aspect, those aspects of technology, and I think that's probably where my strengths lie.
Cool. And yeah, can you give me a specific example then of a time when you've really shown teamwork to be a strength of yours?
Yeah, sure. So at Dev Academy, there's a lot of projects that we have to do. In fact, at the end of most weeks, we're doing a project using the tools that we've learnt in previous weeks.
Mm-hmm.
So some of the ones towards the end, we're really doing full stack and they get quite big. And pretty much in every project, we learnt a huge amount. But there was one in the second to last week, or third to last week actually. There was one project in which we used a lot of tech that I suppose we weren't taught directly in class. We were actually bringing in tech outside of that. And one of those pieces of tech was Firebase. And I just remember us like making so many mistakes and it being really challenging. But the fact that we're all in this together, like we all had really good rapport with each other, we were all really supportive of each other. And even though it was tough and stuff was breaking, we kind of we just worked well together. We learned so much. Like when stuff breaks and you're all learning this at the same time, you can feed off each other. So we all learned a huge amount, and we didn't produce the most amazingly functional product at the end, but it really was a great experience to be able to learn that. And following on, a couple of weeks later, we had another opportunity to use Firebase, and we didn't go with it. We actually we didn't bother using that tech, and we did build a really cool result. But I suppose it was the learning that happened before that made us much more efficient after that. So yeah, I think that was an example that really stands out for me.
Okay, cool, thanks. Okay, so I'm going to go through what I heard from Ro's answer there. Okay, so I straight away you dived into a story, and we talk about this a lot in Careers Week. That telling a story is a way to really give context and give weight to your answers, and it also helps them remember it, which you want at the end of the interview for them to remember you and remember the stories that you told. So yeah, you talked about your hospitality story and then used that to evidence the fact that you had an enjoyment, but you felt like you were stagnating, but the enjoyment was in challenge and in learning new things. And you also used that opportunity to say that's why you'd gone into tech. So already I'm seeing a development of experience, which then led you to why you're here, which is a good reason.
And look, a lot of employers are going to think, is this person in it for the right reasons? Why have they joined tech? And here I am clearly saying that I was good in my previous career, but I just wasn't learning. I was plateauing, I was stagnant, these sorts of things, and drawn to tech. And I think,
yeah, and that really came across. And then you dove straight into the Dev Academy stuff, selling your strengths in teamwork, and what else have I written there? I can't read my own writing, but it was around learning and collaboration, and your passion around building something, seeing the result, and getting the enjoyment from that really sold me that there is a meaningful passion there. You've kind of said about YTech, and now you're kind of grounding it in. Now that I'm here, I love it, and these are the reasons why. Building something and seeing the result and getting enjoyment from kind of evaluating that shows a good level of self-awareness and self-reflection as well. So yeah, they're all good skills. Cool. I thought I'd chuck an extra little question in here at the end.
Yeah, no, that's good.
You will get that in an interview. They might give you the opportunity to kind of score more points on a question by saying, can you give me an example of that? Not everyone will ask you, but this is a good thing. It gives you an opportunity to tick more boxes. So I asked Ro about an example of when he had been good at or enjoyed teamwork, or I would say that your example talks more about your strength of learning rather than teamwork. But it was a good story again, using the actual projects that you had.
And just as a note on that, folks, like, when someone asks you a question, you can tell a good story without necessarily directly answering the question. And Tom asked me about teamwork. I answered more about learning. It had a little bit of teamwork involved, but I wanted to tell that story. I had that up my sleeve. And that's fine. I think it was fine. Tom would be convinced of it as an interviewer, and it would have definitely supported the storytelling that we're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. You've got to remember that people interviewing you generally want you to do well. So as long as you're giving them a good answer that tells them awesome stuff about you, then you're probably going to come out all right. But yeah, a really good story. Slipped in lots of technical terminology in there, which I guess strengthened the back part of my brain, thinking about, this person actually knows what they're talking about. And you also you sold your resilience in a story about saying that challenge is good, and really reveling in when things break, and a really good attitude to when things go wrong, and learning, and that really strengthened that. You talked about using tech that you hadn't already learned, which shows me as a potential employer that we can put stuff in front of you that you're not familiar with, and you'll try and work it out. So again, that's de-risking you and making me think this is someone who's hungry to learn new things, isn't scared to make mistakes, and can work with other people, which is a huge thing in the industry at the moment.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, cool. So, folks, at the heart of this question, there are some main things here. The question, obviously, in its simplest form, is what are your strengths? And you can go forward and say, all my strengths are. But really, the interviewer is looking for some key things. They're looking for a self-awareness. They're definitely looking to see how you articulate and organise yourself around this question and speak to something quite difficult for Kiwis often. We don't like talking about ourselves, especially in a good light. So they want to see how you articulate that and how you measure that with humbleness, but also putting yourself forward. You wouldn't want to say, I'm amazing at everything, and and you wouldn't want to miss the point and say, well, I'm really good at weightlifting, or public speaking, which might be somewhat relevant, or public speaking might be, but it's not relevant enough. You also don't want to say, I'm all right at this and I'm all right at that. That's not what they're looking for. It might be the way you want to sort of promote yourself, fairly humble, laid back, but that is not going to help you in an interview. So it's that measured response, that sort of Goldilocks effect of, I've got some good strengths. You go into some storytelling and you talk about some things. What is the key here, and something that you can get away with, is instead of talking about your strengths, you can talk about what is the strength of any software developer, which is actually what I've done. Collaboration, learning, problem solving, challenge, stuff that's broken and being able to fix it, seeing what you've built, celebration, these sorts of, and I'm just toying around, and I was very careful about the words I used. And the more you tell this story, I think the more powerful this question and answer will be.
Yeah, cool. The only other thing that I would add there is, if for anyone out there that is really uncomfortable about saying I'm good at this and I'm good at that, you probably could get away with the phrase, hey, look, through my project work at Dev Academy, my colleagues would often point out that I was really strong in leadership, or I was really strong in non-violent communication, or whatever that may well be that you want to highlight. giving it someone else's voice can make it seem less cringy for you. If that works,
Mm.
then fine. But I would imagine at some point in the interview, if you kept saying, people say this about me, people say that about me, at some point they would want you to say, I think this about me. So don't rely on it too much, but yeah, it can work quite nicely.
Yeah, that's a good one as well. It's a clever way to give yourself a reference without getting a reference done. And as Tom says, it might cushion it. You know, oh well, my friends describe me as an easygoing person. Look, I you know, they do enjoy working with me in a team, and I do enjoy it as well. I suppose I find that a strength of mine. It offers a bit of a cushioning to that, you know, self-promotion. It's a really good way to get around it. Anyway, that's a little bit about what are your strengths, and hope it helps.